In today's episode of the Pathway Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Shreyas Sali, and he's hailing over as the Director of Product and Data at Spocket. And Spocket is an interesting product, right? It helps you to discover the top dropshipping suppliers of original US and EU products, right? So today we're going to be learning, what that all means, who is actually leveraging this marketplace product, and how Shreyas is thinking about growth for the company. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lucas, and thanks a lot for having me. Just to give you a quick introduction and background about myself, as Lucas already pointed out, I'm a Director of Product and Data at Spocket. Been in Spocket close to 2 years. Before joining Spocket, I worked as a Senior Product Manager at Amazon. Been in product management close to 7+ years, primarily focused on e-commerce, recruiting engine, e-commerce search, and the marketplace product. And before that, I started my career as a software engineer, did my MBA from Arizona State, and moved into the product management. So followed a pretty traditional path, coming in from the technical background, having a business degree, and then connecting both sides of the world.
Yeah, very, very cool. And now you find yourself very much in that product lead and product management role. It's very, very exciting. So yeah, let's deep dive a little bit into Spocket, right? First, so what is Spocket all about? Give us a 360 overview.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, Spocket is a marketplace connecting online retailers, drop shippers with the local suppliers from primarily in the US and EU market. But interesting fact is it's not just about allowing them to discover product from the supplier, but it's also about solving inventory distortion problem when you start an online store, because you have to make sure you know about how many products are in stock, what's product are not in stock, managing orders, managing supply chain logistic behind the scene, what you don't usually see on the surface. So managing all that is the key part of Spocket. I joined Spocket 2 years back, and that time there was only one product manager. There was no product organization as such, pretty much founder-led product company. And as company started scaling, because at that time, because of pandemic, there were a lot of people were trying their hands into drop shipping, setting up their online e-commerce business. Spocket saw exponential growth. And it was not possible for founder to manage everything. He wanted somebody to come in and manage the product so that he can focus on the growth, SEO, finance, accounting, and all that, hiring. And I actually stepped into that role, started thinking about how we want to build a product organization, bring the structure and discipline in the startup chaos, and think about how we can scale the product with the company and opportunities, what we started seeing in the market.
Very cool. Okay, so maybe tell us a little bit more about the companies that are leveraging Spocket. Like, who is that single businesses, is that larger businesses? Maybe give us, I know you alluded a bit to it already, maybe give us sort of that overview. Who is the sort of ideal customer who's benefiting most from Spocket?
Absolutely. And when it comes to, and I'll use the typical product management jargon, is the ideal customer persona, if you want to think about that, is anybody who could be staying home mom or a teacher who is trying to find a side business or trying to earn a side money by trying their own e-commerce business. That's like a target persona for us. But if I want to generalize that, it's anybody who wants to get into the entrepreneurship world, becoming an individual entrepreneur or solopreneurs. With that, we do have a small to medium-sized businesses as well, the organization who actually set up their online store. So we target that as well. But the primary focus is always on these individuals who wants to start their online store using Shopify, BigCommerce, or any e-commerce platform, but then look for the inventory so that they can start selling it online. And those are the key users we focus on a day-to-day basis.
Gotcha. Very good. Makes a whole lot of sense. Like, how do these folks hear about Spocket? Like, what's sort of the key client acquisition channels? And I know you're working very much on the product side. I don't know how close you work with product marketing. Maybe you can also give us an insight on that, but maybe give us sort of an overall picture on how people learn about Spocket.
Interesting part at Spocket Spocket grew organically. So a lot of this actually customers started finding about Spocket through the organic source by connecting and searching through the dropshipping mechanism. However, there is other source we tap into very consciously is the partnership aspect, right? Partnering with all the leading e-commerce platform within the North America was the conscious decision we actually have gone through in 2020 and 2021. Now we have close to 8 integrations, whether you talk about like Shopify, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, Equate, Squarespace, Square, everyone who is trying to build their e-commerce platform. And most of these users also started coming from these e-commerce platform channel, and that's what become a key source for us to acquire more and more customers. But even if I look at the numbers right now, it's primarily focused towards customer discovering Spocket organically.
Gotcha. And when you say organically, you mean like content, or how do they, or is that word of mouth? Like what's the?
Through primarily the Google search and the keyword, through the SEO, like people either like setting up entrepreneurship or drop shipping or selling it through, let's say, AliExpress, because all the Chinese suppliers are pretty prominent in this market. But through those channels, we started acquiring a lot more customers.
That makes sense. I'm curious on the partnership model, because a lot of marketers, especially in the e-commerce space, obviously that it's key. Maybe tell us a little bit like what you've learned in your journey with Spocket, like what is important for those partnerships, or maybe something that is not as obvious, or something that you found surprising or very helpful when building up those partnerships and those integrations.
I think the biggest aspect when it comes to the partnership is also making sure you create your presence first before you initiate the partnership, right? Like why would, let's say, Squarespace or Square will partner with Spocket if Spocket doesn't have that much presence? And the key focus was before we even started establishing that is to make sure we have one focus channel, which was the Shopify, where we can started getting a lot more traffic and a lot more customer through that channel. And you can see like with this whole Shopify ecosystem as it started evolving in 2020 and 2021, it kind of benefited to the small, medium-sized companies like Spocket as well. So we first made sure that one source is solid and streamlined, and there is no leakage or where we are not losing the customer through that source before we started expanding into the other areas. However, once we understood the partnership aspect is the cheapest way, because eventually you do want to expand the LTV and lower your CAC, right? And once you start lowering your customer acquisition costs, it became a way for us to find out how we can discover new and new customers, because the whole e-commerce economy is like $1 trillion business in the United States, even if you just consider the North American market. But that was the key aspect where you focus on one channel, make sure there is no leaky bucket in terms of the customer funnel, and then start thinking about how you can replicate the same area into multiple directions. And that was the key learning for me personally.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Maybe if you allow one more question on this, because I think it's a topic that's very interesting for a lot of marketers listening in. If on the Shopify ecosystem, right, more and more apps are making it into the marketplace, and I assume that was the path that you guys were taking as well. But maybe tell us a little bit more, sort of, when you positioned yourself on the marketplace, of what you found to be important to actually drive that traffic and attention that you were describing.
I think one aspect was timing as well. When we first time introduced, and it was prior to my time frame, so it will be unfair for me to talk about it. But when we actually get into the space, that time there was a other product which was working well in the space, which was acquired by Shopify, called Oberlo. And that was the only product available in that market. So there was a lot of opportunity. But my biggest learning to all marketers or even to entrepreneurs is think about what are the primary products available in your ecosystem and how much market they have covered. If they have captured 80 to 90% of the market, you still have an opportunity to expand yourself in that business. Because even if you actually take 1 or 2% of that market share, you still could become a profitable business and then think about how you can actually expand into that. And that was the biggest lesson we achieved, because there was not that much competition in the market at that time. So it was a pure timing. When we entered into that space, we were able to capture some portion of the customers, started getting more traction, how basically Shopify app marketplace ecosystem works. And we became literally number 2 app in that ecosystem after Oberlo. And that was like, as soon as you actually covered the market and you become the leader, you want to make sure you double down on that growth, because you want to be somebody after some time. If somebody else is entering into the market, you want to position yourself in a way they are not able to capture you. So as your growth is increased, you want to make sure you continue to grow organically or through other channels, but you want to grow exponentially in a way so that nobody else will be able to capture. And the key part for that is to continue to think about innovation and continue to think about the customers. I think going back to basics always help, and focusing on that customer is also always critical. So as you solve those problems, you want to make sure you double down on those areas.
So do I understand you right? It's a lot about sort of being early in that niche in the marketplace, and then being easily discoverable through reviews and everything that is sort of pushing you up in the marketplace. Yep. Very cool. Cool. I want to switch gears a little bit. Thanks for sharing. I think that's going to be very insightful for a lot of the listeners. I'm curious, you as a product manager, how do you think about the website? Like, what role does it play, and how much do you feel you want to, how you think about the product, bring that to the website? Is there touch points with marketing? Like, maybe think about, tell me about that.
I think there are 2 aspects comes into this answer. Me as a product manager versus me as a head or a director of product. If let's say I have to completely purely focus on the product management, I wouldn't worry about too much on the website side. And that was the mindset I had when I was actually playing an individual contributor role. However, as I started expanding myself horizontally, I realized acquisition is the key part, and the website is all about bringing the traffic and leads into the website, and then basically making sure how they can come to a sign up page. From the sign up page onward, it's all about product, right? Because that's the first entry point or a gateway for your let's say experimentation team or a product manager of a growth person to think about how they can actually increase their funnel or make sure increase their conversion on the funnel side. And that's the key point for me. And I started collaborating a lot with our partnership team, affiliate team, and the focus was always about how we can bring more visibility to our website on the other areas. What are the other potential high traffic sites which are in our space where we can create our presence? Because through that, if we started getting more and more customer landing on our landing page, from there, we can actually think about how they can enter into the funnel, because that's the key part. So the first milestone is making sure customer come to the landing page. The second part is come to the first milestone, which is the sign up page. And after that, how strong our funnel is going to define our growth strategy. And I think you initially talked about the growth aspect as well. So we do want to focus a lot on the experimentation piece, and that's what we are doing. I also built that experimentation team where we can actually start thinking about how we can solidify the funnel for the organic traffic in the future.
Very cool. Super interesting. I think we did a lot of like deep dives into the different angles. We learned about Spocket quite a bit. We spoke about the different growth channels. It's sort of a deep dive on Shopify there, and not Spotify, as I mentioned prior. So what would be interesting now is to do some rapid fire questions, just to get to know you and your journey a little bit better, if you're up for that.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Very cool. What's the last book that you read?
I've been reading multiple books in the product space, but the one which I have right now I'm reading is Working Backwards by Colin Breyer, basically Amazon's journey and understanding how Amazon built the product. And I am coming from the Amazon background, and the working backward is a philosophy I have actually acquired. However, I was still fascinated by how Colin Breyer and Bill talked about their journey of working backwards.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to give one sentence of what's the concept of working backwards? Is it like reverse engineering? You start with the goal, you build all the goals from there? Or what's the sort of the
Absolutely, and I think it's pretty much out there. Jeff Bezos talked about it. It's thinking about the vision, what the end product will look like, and you basically start from that. And it's a whole philosophy of writing a press release as if you, as a product manager, writing a product document as if you are launching that product today. So you think about every niche, every area, every challenges of a product and write that document, which is usually a 6-pager document, and it's called press release and FAQ. And then you basically think about from that point onwards, how you will actually build that vision and work backward to achieve that, because there is no way you can achieve everything in one go. So how can you set up the milestone in order to get there?
Very cool. If there would be no boundaries in technology, right? Everything would be possible. What's the one thing you would fix for your role?
What's the one thing I would fix for my role? Making sure every area has the right frameworks, and every operational cadence will run automatically on the frameworks.
Very good. And for the very last question, I want to do a bit of time travel with you. Let's go back to the days of Arizona State. And actually, I also saw you, I'm German by background. You also studied in Germany with the WHU University, well known here. What's the one advice that you would give yourself if you would sort of head off into your career of product management after formal education?
No matter what, whatever formal education have, start some sort of side gig, whether it is launching an e-commerce store, or whether it is like writing a blog post, or some sort of following the latest trend of creator economy. But being that entrepreneurial mindset teaches you a lot. And that could means you find your own path, which area you want to explore, whether like nowadays people start exploring like creating mobile apps, creating a tablet apps, or creating some sort of startup, but start something on your own, because that education will teach a lot more than any formal education.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on the show.